So what if our buildings could heal themselves? I mean, really, imagine a crack in a bridge, or maybe in your foundation, that instead of getting worse, just repairs itself from the inside out. Well, this isn't science fiction anymore. It's the very real and very cool science of self-healing concrete.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to talk about why concrete cracks in the first place. Then we'll meet the tiny organisms that can fix it. After that, we'll look at the proof. Does it actually work? We'll also break down the costs and benefits. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at what it means to build with living materials.
All right, first things first, we have to talk about cracks. Concrete is literally the foundation of our modern world, but it has this one huge, unavoidable weakness. You see these things everywhere, right? Little fractures in the sidewalk or on a wall. But they are so much more than just ugly. Every single crack is like an open invitation for water and chemicals to creep inside. And once they reach the steel rebar, that's when the real trouble starts. Corrosion. Decay. Basically, the beginning of the end for that structure's integrity. So just how big of a problem are we talking about? Well, get a load of this number. Almost 40% of the entire lifetime cost of a concrete structure is just spent on maintenance and repairs. That is a staggering amount of money and resources, all just to fight a losing battle against cracks.
So what if we could flip the script? Instead of this endless cycle of patching things up, what if the solution was built right into the concrete from day one? And what if that solution came from some of nature's smallest, toughest little construction workers?
Now we need to be clear about something here. Concrete actually has a tiny, natural ability to fix itself. It's called autogenous healing. But it's really limited, only works for the most microscopic cracks. What we're talking about is something else entirely. Autonomous healing. This is where we supercharge the process by adding a secret ingredient, bacteria.
Okay, the science behind this has a fancy name, microbial-induced calcite precipitation. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea is actually super simple. You mix special bacteria into the concrete. Then when a crack forms and water seeps in, it's like a wake-up call. The bacteria start munching on some nutrients, and what they produce is limestone. They literally poop out limestone, which fills the crack and seals it shut.
So here's how it all goes down. Step 1, crack forms. That's the trigger. Water and air get in. Step 2, the bacteria, which have been sleeping inside the concrete, usually something tough like Bacillus subtilis, suddenly wake up. Then they start eating the special food we mixed in for them. And finally, boom, they create that limestone and seal the crack tight from the inside. Okay, I know it sounds amazing in theory, but the big question is, does it really work? Well, seeing is believing, so let's look at the actual proof. All right, check this out. On the left, you see a piece of concrete with some pretty obvious cracks running right through it. Now look at the picture on the right. That is the exact same piece, just 28 days later. Those cracks are almost completely gone, filled in by the limestone the bacteria made. It's incredible. And just to show you this wasn't some lucky one-off, here's another example. Again, you see these big cracks before, and then afterward, a much, much healthier looking surface. This process is for real and it's super effective. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just a cosmetic fix. This chart is looking at tensile strength, basically how well the concrete holds up when you try to pull it apart. Now look at that bar on the far right, the M2 sample. After it cracked and healed, the concrete with more bacteria wasn't just repaired, it was actually stronger than the original concrete that was never cracked in the first place. In fact, that sample's strength came back to 132% of the original. Think about that for a second. It didn't just heal itself, it actually got stronger. That's a total game changer. Okay, so we know it works. We know it's strong, but how does this stack up in the real world? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and talk about why this stuff really matters. The cost, the carbon footprint, and the lifespan of our buildings. This table really tells the whole story. And yeah, let's get it out of the way. The upfront cost is higher, about 25 to 30% more. But that's where the bad news ends. Look at the payoff. Maintenance costs drop by a massive 80%. The lifespan of a building can jump by 75%. We're talking 70 years instead of 40. And because you're not constantly repairing and replacing, the total carbon footprint gets cut by up to 30%. The long-term win is just enormous.
You know, what's really exciting here is that this is so much bigger than just making a better version of concrete. We're crossing a major threshold here. This opens up a whole new world of possibility, actually engineering and building with living materials.
Listen to how Justin Gallivan over at DARPA, that's the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, puts it. He says, instead of hauling heavy materials across the globe, imagine shipping lightweight packets of bacteria and nutrients and then just growing your structures wherever you need them.
I mean, the potential here is straight out of science fiction. We're talking about things like a roof that can breathe to keep a building cool, a chimney that fixes its own cracks after an earthquake. Get this, a driveway with bacteria engineered to literally eat oil spills to clean itself up. We're at the very beginning of creating smart, adaptive, living infrastructure.
So when you boil it all down, self-healing concrete does way more than just solve a really old engineering problem. It forces us to ask a much bigger, much more interesting question. And it challenges the very idea of what a building material can even be. So what happens when our buildings are no longer just static objects, but are, in fact, alive?